guys, it's time to jump into virtual reality. Now, this is a little bit of a test. We're using the onboard microphone with the HTC VIVE, the HTC VIVE microphone, which sound quality isn't necessarily fantastic, but hopefully it's passable because it's nice having a mic next to the face that the video can capture. And as you can see, I've got OBS on the screen, so I've got my desktop mirrored in virtual reality, and it's a little bit disconcerting seeing myself moving with the green screen behind me whilst I'm moving. That's really like an out of body experience going on here. But we've got the desktop mirrored on, we've got the headset on and everything, and we're just going to talk about initial first impressions and maybe launch some stuff. Just have a little bit of a fiddle. It's a bit of a casual video. Now you'll notice I haven't got the headphones in yet, and this is something that's really annoying with the Vive. And I think we'll start with the negatives. Why not? Let's go straight into the negatives. Let's be a Debbie Downer. The biggest disappointment with the Vive, I think, is the actual basic user comfort. In my opinion, the Vive still feels like some kind of super advanced dev kit or some weird scientific piece of equipment rather than a consumer device. Because the headphone thing, I've started to get better with them and getting used to just putting the headphone cables underneath the back cable and putting it in. It's just a little bit of a faff. And then on top of that, the actual way the headset mounts on your face isn't the most comfortable, especially when you start doing more active stuff. You really kind of have to clamp it to your face to get it to stop moving because of the way the foams work. My hope is that people like VR Cover improve the foams on the face, and I think that'll drastically improve how it feels on your face and how tight you need it to get a good field of view. And also, the way the top strap works and this back thing that clamps to the back of your head, I've tried it in every single position, and I haven't got anything that's completely ideal. Obviously, when you're playing a game and you're immersed in virtual reality, you forget about all this. But that is the initial really disappointing thing about the Vive. Everything else is pretty damn good, apart from the price and the initial comfort of putting the device on. We're still in the early days of VR. So let me pop the headsets on, the headphones. Hopefully I won't shout too loud. It's really hard to tell how loud you're talking when you've got earbud headphones on. But you see my controllers are here on the floor. And as you know, and as you've seen in other videos, immaculately tracked, incredibly tracked. The tracking on the Vive is unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. In terms of aim, everything goes exactly where you'd expect it to. There's no latency. Incredible. And that applies for headset tracking as well. And you can see when I turn around here, get into the bounds of my chaperone holodeck, and my room starts glowing in. Absolutely amazing. Let me just minimize the desktop, which I've got on the screen. You've still got OBS here. You can interact with your desktop in Steam. This is something that's really good with the Vive as well, actually. The basic underlying software and allowing you to interact with your computer and do what you need to do is phenomenal. Really well done. And I know with the Steam controller, you know that Valve are going to keep updating it, improving it really fast. With the Steam controller, they were super fast at improving things. So I'm sure the software is just going to keep improving, be more stable within the following months. With the Steam controller, it took about 2 months before it was like really solid, but they drastically improved it. Same with Steam Big Picture and everything that Valve tend to work on. They sort of iterate on things really quickly. So we're here in the VR space. I've set up my room. My room's not too big. It's like a 3 by 2 meter space I've got. I've put the bounds on and made it all clear. I'm treading on my lights that I've set on the floor for the green screen. But you can see on the floor here, there's the bounds for the chaperone system. As you get close to it, your fake holodeck wall pops in to stop you, hopefully, walking headfirst into your real wall and physical objects in your space. And we've got the floor. What I found out, I've been playing this with my partner, and she doesn't like games at all, but she really likes this. At first, we didn't have this floor bound on, which is an option that lets you set your play space to always be visible in games and in 3D scenes or in VR. At first, we didn't have that on. I found my partner, she was too scared to walk around. But as soon as I put this on, she was like, okay, I know where I'm free to walk now. And that's like the line of death. So it's really helpful. Again, this is why I say I think on the software side, this sort of thing is really important, especially with something as complex as VR. That made the difference between my partner being able to walk around and my partner cowering in the centre of the room as if she was on a cliff edge. For me, and I think for a lot of gamers that are maybe more comfortable or just get used to things really quickly, or basically just don't care about their lives, You could turn all the helpers off chaperone down and just make it almost invisible, and probably get a little bit more immersion and headbutt walls and stuff occasionally. That's just the risk of living on the edge. So let's get into Steam. Let's have a little fiddle. So you've got the desktop, as you say, lets you interact with your desktop. You can use your controllers to point and do certain things. A little bit finicky to click. Sometimes it's the trigger, which actually moves as you push it. You can see it moving there on the screen, which is really cool. That's left click, and then the top button is right click. You can also double click, and that works for most things. So it's not really that good for interactive desktop stuff. Like typing doesn't work too well, but for basically setting things up, and for people like me that do recording and streaming and what have you, it's good enough to get things set up, see that your volume levels work, interact with Twitch chat and stuff by just pushing the button to bring it up. Oh, there you go. I can do Twitch chat could read Twitch chat straight away. All that kind of stuff is absolutely fantastic. Really, really useful. Not sure if it'd be as useful for people just playing games, but it's there. So why not use it? I'm sure if you're a normal person, you get a message from someone separate to your game, or you just want to check a web page or a guide or something, that's absolutely fantastic having that there. In terms of Steam, it's very much like a big, like big picture, but in a 3D space. You see, I've put a background here of Windlands. I'll explain why I've put this specific background on in a second. But see, Steam Big Picture, you push the button and it brings up virtual Steam Big Picture, operates exactly like Steam Big Picture. Use your controllers to select stuff. A little bit finicky in places, but you start getting used to how to use it. You can pull the trigger and scroll up and it slides around a bit. You can also use the touchpad to select things. The easiest thing to do is to use the pointer, though the pointer can be quite hard to be super precise, and until you get into the habit of actually walking up to your screen to get closer to then aim easier. Basically, everyone that uses Steam VR are going to be like amazing at shooting. So if there's ever a zombie apocalypse, people that have got good with Steam interfaces with Steam VR that will all survive. And those of you that didn't have VR, had better things to do with your time, and actually saved your money instead of spending it, you're all going to die. So enjoy that. All this VR people will be, we won't know how to feed ourselves, but we'll be able to shoot well. So it's all okay. So we've got the Steam Big Picture thing here. Lets you pick up your games. You just click on them at launch. We'll launch game in a second. What I want to talk about, though, is separate to that, the other big negative. It seems to be the case with current gen VR headsets. Is that because of how they're set up, I don't know if it's for cost, just for optimizing the screens they've got and the lenses and what have you, they use Fresnel lenses, which have a tendency to get to cause sort of ghosting, and you're aware of the Fresnel lens shape a little bit. Now, you're only aware of it when you're not fully immersed. When you're active in like the lab, for example, or a game, you don't notice it because your brain is going, oh my God, I'm in virtual reality. But when you're in menus and stuff and you're not completely immersed and active at something, you really do notice the Fresnel lensing, the ghosting and things. And what causes the ghosting more than anything else is high contrast scenes. So, for example, on the Steam menu, on the sort of chaperone menu, on the Steam menu here, if we've got a scene that is let's try and find the menu. I can't remember where it is. If you've got a scene that's it's inset. If you've got a scene that's not bright or sort of comparable contrast to Steam itself, or say it's a really dark scene or a really bright scene. So I put this Star Trek holodeck on as a background. That causes really pronounced ghosting from the white objects on here. If I have a scene that's really white, and then the Steam interface is really dark, again that produces really pronounced ghosting. Although this feels quite nice and spacious, I just feel like I'm in a big open space. Really, really strange, just jumping from place to place. So my hope is that more people develop backgrounds that actually work really well at minimizing the ghosting. And you'll notice in well-designed VR games, they set up everything so the contrast is such that it minimizes ghosting. So, but I put this Windlands background on because for some reason, just because of the variation in colors and the difference between the Winland background and the Steam background is such that the Steam interface doesn't have much ghosting. Now, it's not the end of the world, the ghosting, but it is a little niggle, and I think you can look past it. But if you're really critical about the visual fidelity, and you're really critical of spending £750 on a VR headset, it could drive you insane. So it's worth those of you on the fence bearing that in mind, that there is this ghosting, and maybe it's going to take another generation or so of VR, maybe like a year, 2 years, before we have lenses that don't use Fresnel lenses and we don't have these ghosting things. But for now, you can work around it, and hopefully developers work around it by making sure that the contrast is not ridiculous in the scenes. So hopefully we didn't go too off on a tangent there. We're going to load up a game quickly and show off how slick this is for loading games and things. It's really nice. You're in VR. You can access your desktop, as I said, from here, but you want to play a game. Let's load up the lab. Why not? We'll go for that. Oops. I'll go and fly in here. The lab. So double click on it. What am I doing? There we go. And it's loading. So now while something's loading, it actually loads in the background so you don't get the stutter. Because with VR, obviously, it's really important that you don't have the headset stop, start, or pause with stuff on the screen. Otherwise, it makes you instantly motion sick. And Steam VR has done a fantastic job of always making sure that you've always got tracking working perfectly fine. So if something's loading, you see it at the bottom of the screen there, and it operates fantastic. And at any point in time, without any issues of stuttering again, you can bring up the Steam overlay, which is funny though, that you couldn't, in normal Steam, if you bring up the Steam overlay, it'd pause a little bit if you're playing on Windows, and there's issues with that. But it's funny how in VR, that's not a problem. So it's nice though. Maybe they can transfer this, how well this works, into normal Steam. So that just brought up the Steam overlay there by just clicking the button on controller. All works fantastic. Say we're in the lab. Let's start by just touching the button. And what's really funny is you do have to get your mind away from concepts you've built up as a player from playing normal PC games. When I loaded my partner up into this, she was like, "Oh, how do I push the button?" Because she's not much of a gamer. She plays a lot of Mario Kart, but play audio surfing, like casual games. But she doesn't really game. But even with her, she's like, "Oh," she's just looking at it, going, "Oh, what do I do?" And then even when I loaded into it, I was like, "Oh, how do I start it?" And then you're like, "Oh, I've got hands in the game to do stuff." And you're just like, "Okay." So we're in the lab, and what a lot of games use to move around is this teleport thing. So you can see my room scale bands. As you say, this is optional to have this room scale thing always projected on the floor, but it allows you to walk around a little bit in the space, even if you live in a tiny British flat. But then to actually move around bigger spaces, you teleport, which I think it's the only compromise you could really have to allow for movement in bigger spaces without it breaking too much immersion. It's going to be interesting to see if more developers have this teleport thing or an option of having you sort of wheel along, what causes motion sickness, what doesn't, how they build the design around it. All that is going to be really interesting to see how things develop. But for now, that's our little dog. This is the thing with VR as well in terms of interaction. You also forget that you can just there's stuff at the floor as well. I think if you play a lot of games, you forget that there's a 3D space around you. When in VR, that you can actually access the 3D space, and the headphones falling out, will drive you crazy. Honestly, I think I might just get a wireless set of headphones to say that is a really irritating issue. So getting used to it's a guy over there floating away with the balloon. Getting used to the fact that you actually can move around the space and touch the floor and interact with things all around you. Obviously, at this point in time, that feels a little bit gimmicky because there's nothing particularly there to do, and it's all just sort of like play things. It's a bit like a Wii. but I'm pretty sure within the next sort of 6 to 8 months, you'll get developers that have all these tools, interaction options, and will find ways to build games into it that have good depth. But I think the lab is actually a really good introduction to the basic fundamentals of what's possible with VR, how you can interact with things. Probably if I was going to introduce someone to VR, this would be the where to start them, I think. And it eases you in at the introduction of the lab, how it loads in, it eases you in a really nice, friendly way. And again, as I said, my partner just doesn't game at all. She went on this, and it's introduced it to her without me having to sort of hold a hand through it. So, really well done. Let's go in here, and we could talk a little bit about the accuracy of the hand controllers a little bit more. I'll just double check the recording. We are good. No? OBS. Yes. We are good, I think. Okay, so as I was saying, the accuracy, and this is the thing for me, as a more of a core gamer, I like simulators and, you know, high precision games that have really high skill curve, or a skill curve that's progressive, but then at the top end it's just really hard to ever feel like you can't improve on it. For example, the complete opposite of something like Wii Bowling. If you spend time with Wii Bowling, you learn that you can just flick the controller and you'll get a strike every time, which is rubbish. And this is why I like stuff like driving simulators and shooters at certain types of game, because you can always improve on them. And it's crucial with something like with VR that you always feel like you can improve on it. And one thing that was proven immediately with this game in the lab is that because the tracking fidelity is so high and so precise, something like using the bow and arrow is really down to your dexterity with your hands, and there's a really high skill curve to it. At first, you're missing everything, but once you get into it, it feels very intuitive to aim precisely. With you having to, you aim the arrow as you'd aim it, but you also have to account for the timing of the speed of the arrow against the other objects that are moving in the scene. But you can aim using your eye. I can't aim. But it's really, really satisfying shooting things on target here. It doesn't feel delayed at all or slow. Again, I use the Wii as an example because that's what people tend to think of with motion controllers. I think Kinect and Wii. But itchy nose. This is just I don't know how you could demonstrate how precise it is. If you watch the Steam, the Valve video where the green screen everything, you see how close things are tracked. But for stuff like weapons in games, this fundamentally changes the depth of basic interaction and inherently produces what I think would be a high skill curve, especially if a multiplayer bow and arrow game. Absolutely fantastic. I'm sure people are working on it. Put the arrow in here. We'll start this and shoot some people. Of course, I have to remind myself you can actually move around the 3D space as well. You have to be aware of the cable. I do worry a little bit for multiplayer games that are frantic. It turns out I can't hit this guy. I worry a bit for multiplayer games that are frantic, how much the cable will get in the way. Because you do have to be aware of the cable, and obviously if you're in that headphone thing, that is driving me crazy. If you were in a proper multiplayer battle with someone, if you lose that battle due to the cable snagging on you, you're not going to be too happy. So that is a worry of mine for high intensity games. But maybe that's just one of the things that we have to put up with at early days of VR. Just getting on the head. I would hope as well maybe some companies can come up with more advanced cable management. I can't hit this balloon. Come on. I will get it. Oh! Oh! No. It's gone out of the box anyway. I think I just need to super glue the headphones in my ear sockets. That's the only solution. It's the only guaranteed way of making sure earbuds don't fall out of your wonky ears. So, I've yet to see a really... Well, there's a couple of games in development, but I haven't tried them yet. But some really high-quality shooters with a gun. So it'll be super interesting to see how accurate this is with actual pistols. So we're going to try that as soon as possible. Since I've only had this for 2 days, I've just been going through the basic content. But to actually use a gun and aim it would be really interesting, because obviously guns are really not about timing. Aim with an arrow, you've got to be accurate, but you've also got to account for distance and momentum and all that business. So it's not necessarily a raw test of absolute accuracy of the controllers. I think you get the idea. Let's shoot these barrels. Here. I think that blew up without me actually hitting it there. So we'll go back here, we'll launch another game. So this is what's cool. Playing a game, you're like, okay, I'm done with that. Click exit. Exit straight away. We go back to Steam, we'll load another game. And it's really, really responsive and immediate. Absolutely fantastic. Even if you're not interested in VR, it's really nice to just be able to close something immediately. We'll just go into Audio Shield, which is made by the Audio Surf guy. Okay, so as we go into Audio Shield, the game should load, hopefully. See the holodeck disappear and Audio Shield appear. And let's see what happens. There we go. We're in Audio Shield. Now, for those who don't know, Audio Shield is basically a VR version of Audio Surf, where you have shields, balls come at you and you block them. A really simple, basic game. I'd say the same with Audio Surf as well. It's not really... It sort of blends the line between game and just a fancy way to listen to your music. And I've been playing this, listening to songs on SoundCloud. Last night I was playing for about 2 hours. My partner was playing it for a while as well, just listening to the music and waving her arms around like fools. And it's really enjoyable. Audio Surf has never really been about getting a top score. I don't know if anyone does play it like that. It's just a really relaxing game to play. But to avoid getting destroyed by the copyright police, I'm going to launch a song I just knocked up in Fruity Loops. So it's not going to be anything special, and it's really short. So we can just focus more on the talking. We see we're on this little platform floating around, and there's the holodeck boundaries coming as I get close to the edge of my stuff. It's pretty awesome though how the game menu is on this giant... Perceptually it comes across as being on a giant projector screen in front of you. It's basically equivalent as if you had a projector screen that had, say, round about a 1080p resolution. Obviously, I can't see the whole thing without looking, but it looks, when I've stood in front of a projected 1080p image that's this big, I guess sort of like a 100-inch screen, it looks fairly comparable. Obviously, if you're going to watch a film on this kind of screen, you wouldn't want to do that because you'd miss stuff at the edge without looking around. But I guess that gives you an idea of the actual quality of it. Let's go into a song. So you get the shield. We'll get going. I think we're loading. There we go. So we've got these two shields. It's got the score written on the. It's got the how well you're doing actually on the shields themselves. Which is a nice thing with VR is that there's the ability to put UI information on the hand controllers and in the scene and not have it clutter the immediacy of your face. You can look around. As I say, the whole paradigm of how you design games and what you do is completely changed. And so even though most of the games at the moment that are available are sort of more experiences or more toy-like than games, you're starting to see the potential and you're starting to see people sort of scrape away at the surface of what's going to be possible with VR. It's just really weird having your hands there. Let's start. Let's go. So very simple. Just got to these balls floating towards us. What I found when I was playing this last night is it's really, really hypnotic, and if you start listening to stuff like techno, it's actually quite physically demanding. Unfortunately, this song is incredibly short, so we're going to be working with sweat. On the subject of sweating, again, this is one of the shortcomings of the Vive, I think. Is though it doesn't fog up at all. I hope the little particles coming off after you finished. It doesn't fog up at all, which is fantastic. Whereas the DK2 used to get fogged in certain conditions if you're breathing really heavy under it. But you do get a bit sweaty because the I call it the foam, the facial interface foam, just isn't that good at dealing with sweat. It just soaks it up. So if I was demoing a Vive, if you go to one of those Vive demos in London, I'd expect to catch some kind of disease off everyone's sweat on the face. It's like showing an ice hockey helmet around. It's not going to be pleasant. Hopefully, as I say, people like VR Cover will improve on that with different facial interfaces. So I'm really excited to see what they do. Let's go back to desktop. Audio, as I say, it's all about just if you're going to listen to music, it's possibly the most enjoyable way to listen to music. I hope Audio Shield still keeps on having more content to it and keeps on being developed. If it's anything like Audio Surf, it'll gradually get better over time, and they'll gradually add stuff to it, which will be fantastic. I don't think you could play it. I think it was only £12 or so to buy. I think it's fairly cheap game anyway. Really, really worthwhile getting if you've got a Vive and you're looking for stuff to play. Something that just occurred to me that I forgot to bring up is, as you'll have noticed in this video, the microphone quality is not, I don't think it's particularly acceptable, but I need to try and talk quieter because it's probably been popping and clipping all through this video. So apologies. apologies for that. I'll try and talk a little bit quieter as well because the microphone is by my face. But that is a real shame with the Vive, that you'd have thought HTC, being the company that they are, would put a good quality mic in it. Maybe it's a bitrate issue rather than a raw microphone quality issue. But based by what I've seen with other people's recordings as well, I don't think the microphone is particularly high quality. So this is Tilt Brush by Google, which comes in the pre-order pack with the Vive, and basically it's Microsoft Paint in virtual reality. So you can draw anything you like. What should we draw? Draw a smiley face. Well, that's a tool, not a brush. And this is the perfect thing to, if you had someone that's not into games particularly and they want to just be amazed by VR, Tilt Brush is pretty incredible because you are painting in 3D space. And if you look online, people have started to paint some pretty impressive things. I'm not sure how much of a serious tool you could use it for, but I think there's no reason why it couldn't be a serious tool. At the moment, some of the paintbrush things you can do, it's gone more for that sort of abstracty, arty. It's literally like MS Paint. I don't know how long it'll be, but I would have thought something more Photoshoppy or with more professional application where you could draw 3D objects. There's a game for the PlayStation VR, which I could see having potential, to actually generate useful 3D models from. But this is sort of, as I say, paint and just sketching in 3D space. It's really nice. Unfortunately, that's the extent of my artistic ability. But you could do it crazy stuff when I was doing the live stream. I just drew, you could draw stuff around you because it is a 3D space. So you don't have to sort of go into it thinking of, like as you would a normal drawing. You can sort of draw something around you. So I don't know, maybe there's probably incredible prototyping application to this. I can't draw a square box. I've drawn a curved box just by accident by rotating around here. We're just building a little house for ourselves here, filling the ceiling. When my partner was playing on this yesterday, there's a fire brush, and there we go. And she painted a fire around herself. She trapped herself. She's like, I can't move. I'm stuck in the fire. There we go. Built a little highly detailed house for us to live in. And let's face it, once you've bought a VR headset, you're not going to be able to afford a real place to live. So it's quite good that you could build a virtual place to live. Let's fill in this wall. But it's just, this is really cathartic. And I could imagine if you're someone, if you say you're suffering from stresses, or you're stuck in a hospital or some miserable place, or you just need an escape, this would be excellent for like occupational therapy and that kind of thing. And I think this is the key thing with VR. Games are just one part of it, just a very small part probably. And I think the sort of scientific applications and, well, it's just infinite, isn't it, really? But that's going to really sort of justify the headsets more than games, really. Of course, I'm mostly interested in games. Let's just paint that wall. If you get the idea, we've got this big, really, really bad house that I've built. We can step out of the house now and take a look from another angle. Just go around the edge of our house. So pretty crazy. There's our face that we started with. Totally useless when in my hands, but I'm sure someone, if used by the right person, when actually done seriously, and once you've got used to it, potentially quite powerful. And maybe if they've got more tools here for you to use that are a little bit more precise. But again, this is another good example of interfaces and being on the control. I'm just using a touchpad to rotate around the selection tools, and you can just, there's a lot of options here that are very easily accessible, and it's very easy to pick what you want, and it's very intuitive. Again, I keep using my partner's example because she doesn't game at all. If I give her a game controller and ask her to play a standard game, it's the initial controllers that are really off-putting and difficult for a lot of players. But she's put this on, and she really just instantly got this and was just playing for 2-3 hours. So I think it'll be really interesting to see, probably once the prices come down, to say that the price is way too high for this to be sort of a mass adoption thing at the moment. But it's going to be really interesting to see how having potentially such a wide audience will affect games as a whole. As I said earlier in the video, personally, I'm more interested in hardcore experiences, and we'll go to some of them soon. We're going to be getting the sim rig in, and we're going to be playing some Live for Speed, and I'm going to buy some shooting games and kill stuff and drive everything, because that's where I get my enjoyment from. But I just think it's so exciting how diverse VR is going to be in the future. I think that's probably a good place to end this introductory video, otherwise it's going to go on for 100 years. But I think that gives you a basic introduction to the Vive, or first impressions of using the Vive at a basic level when you first get it out of the box. We're going to do a proper review of it and going over everything, but I just wanted to get an initial video out of first impressions of just using it at a basic level. So thanks for watching this. Don't forget to click the subscribe button and like, and let me know in the comments what you want to see specifically, what you're interested in VR, and we'll get VR in and uploading more videos. See you guys. Goodbye.